Welcome to the Invest for More Real Estate Podcast. My name is Mark Ferguson, and I am your host. I'm a house flipper. I flip 10 to 15 houses a year. I own 13 rental properties with a goal to buy 100 by 2023. I'm also a real estate agent. I've been licensed since '01. I run a team of 9. We sell close to 200 houses a year. So on this show, we like to interview house flippers, landlords, and the best real estate agents in the business. So stay tuned for some great shows. If you want more information on my rentals, on the numbers, how I buy properties, check out investformore.com. Hi, everyone. It's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More. Welcome to another podcast on real estate investing. Today, I have an awesome guest, Will Barnard, who is just an incredible house flipper in California. He's been a rental property owner, a note investor, just doing a ton of things. California is a tough market right now, as many people know. And Will's going to share with us how he's still being able to flip houses down there and the type of houses he's flipping, because he is doing some things that very few investors do and working at a price point that very few people work in. So thanks a lot, Will. I appreciate you joining the show. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me, Mark.
Cool. So you got started in real estate in 2004. What first got you interested in real estate? Did you just kind of accidentally get into it? Was it a plan for a long time? How'd that all start?
Real estate was always a passion of mine. I didn't really know exactly what a real estate investor was back in the day. However, I've been self-employed since I was 19. I started my own offset printing company, and I did that for over a decade. And early, like maybe somewhere around 2000 or so, I was really interested in real estate. I actually even went around with agents looking at houses, and my intent was to buy a fixer, fix it up, and maybe live in it and then sell it and move up and keep continuing on with that. At the time, I didn't know anything about real estate investing. I didn't know anything about creative financing. So all I knew about was going to a bank, getting a loan, and going from there. And because I was self-employed, I really couldn't qualify because I just didn't show the income back in the day. So I never pulled the trigger. And finally, in about 2003, I started educating myself. And 2004, I got really into it. And that's when I finally pulled the trigger and started to do it.
What was your first flip like? What was the price point? And did you end up getting bank financing, or was it some other type of way you bought it?
No, that was my first flip was accidental. It was intended to be a buy and hold, and it turned out to be a flip. So I actually had 2 of them turn out that way. And the first one, it was from afar, was in Texas. It was in the middle of the summer when I was trying to flip it. And I flew out there and I did the work myself. I hated it. It was hotter than Hades. And this house was an absolute wreck. I actually had to run out of this house because I almost yacked right in the house. It smelled so bad in there. It was just, don't even want to go there. So it was a complete accident, but had to flip it. So that was a really bad experience on flipping. That was my first flip, but again, it was unintentional. My first flip intentionally was here in California in my own backyard. And that purchase price was, I'm going to say it was just over $300,000 acquisition. And off the top of my head, I want to say 60 to 75 grand in rehab. And I ended up making, I think, like 90 grand on my first flip. And I was hooked.
Oh, that's awesome. A lot of people I talk to, their first flip or their first investment, they lose money on. So that's a nice rate of return there to make 90 grand on it. When you did your flip in Texas and you did the work yourself, how long did that take you?
I didn't do everything, with my own hands, but I did a lot of organization, making sure the guys to do the painting were lined up, the carpet installers, the cabinet guys. I did all the demo myself. I did a few of the installs, purchased a lot of the equipment, did all the landscaping myself. I think I was there for about a week, maybe 10 days, if I recall. Okay. The entire process, though, to do the entire flip, it was about, I want to say 6 weeks. 5 to 6 weeks. It was a small house.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. No,
it was a small house though.
I tried to flip or do the repairs on a flip myself one time, and I did. I was replacing windows, doors, kitchen, I think it took me like 6 months to try and do it all. And it's one of the biggest lessons I learned in life was never to do the work myself again on a flip because it's just not worth it. So,
yeah, I know where you're going there. A lot of people like to do that. And I always, that's a good thing. If you want to get into a house and flip it yourself and learn the process, good way to learn. The bad thing is if you want to make it a business, you can't do everything yourself. And if you want to rinse and repeat, you have got to hire that stuff out because time is your enemy when you're flipping a house.
So the house you flipped in California, you made $90,000 on. How did you find that house? Was it an MLS deal? Was it for a trustee sale or auction property?
I bought it directly from the bank. It was an REO property, and I bought it before it ever hit the MLS. And this was back in the day where you could form relationships with top REO brokers and asset managers. That was my forte, and I was preaching that on forums and the internet for years back then. But the rules changed, and when they changed, you could no longer have these REO brokers deliver me the properties before they went on the MLS because the banks want to have them listed for 7 or 14 or 21 days before even accept an offer. Some banks would only want to sell to occupants first for the first 30 days. So there was all these rule changes, and it made it very, very difficult to have these backdoor, if you will, deals. So when I saw that change in the marketplace come, I had to adapt to that. And that's when I started shopping on MLS like everybody else.
Yeah, no, I'm an REO broker and HUD listing broker myself. And I see that question so much from readers. There's a property that's vacant. Bank of America has the property. How do I contact Bank of America so I can buy it before it's listed?
Right. Good luck.
Yeah. Back in the day, maybe you could do that, especially if it's a local bank. Anymore, it's like you're just going to waste hours of time and bang your head against a wall because it's not going to happen. Their policies are so strict, they just won't sell them before they're listed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I've been stuck on MLS, a little bit of direct marketing myself too. Do you do any direct marketing at all or just strictly MLS right now?
I have always intended to do that, and I've talked about doing it, and I've talked about doing it again, and I've never gotten around to doing it. So to answer your question, no. Is it because I don't want to or because I don't think it's good? Absolutely not. I think it's an excellent strategy, particularly for those who are starting out. Shopping on the MLS, the spreads are very tight. You have to make a lot of offers. You have to really know what you're doing because if you don't, one little mistake and you go from profit to break even, 2 or 3 mistakes and you go to negative and losing money. And new investors just can't afford to lose big amounts of money on a flip when they're just starting out. So direct marketing is the way to go. Get a motivated seller, get it before an agent gets their hooks into the seller and try and work out the best deal possible for you and create the biggest spread possible. That's where you're going to find a good deal when you're a newbie. You
started in 2003-4 with your first flip. You've been flipping 11 years now, at least. What does your business look like now? How did you do one flip at a time for a while? Did you start kind of growing it right away? How did you end up growing it to where you're at right now?
Sure. Well, actually, to correct you, my first investments were buy and hold. So I didn't start flipping in 2004. All of my investments were buy and hold. And then I actually got into land development. With the exception of the accidental flips, I was doing spec building. I was building single family homes, duplexes, and fourplexes out in Texas. And in 2009 is when I started flipping because I saw the market change. And that's when I said, you know what? There's a ton of money to be made right here in my own backyard. I've got to sell what I have. And that's when I sold my portfolio because I wanted to get that capital back and invest it here because I knew I could make big time money with it. And so from 2009 on is when I've actually been flipping. So for the last 6 years, I started off flipping one at a time. And then when I would sell it, I'd go shop for another one, get another one under contract and so forth. Then I started doing 2 at a time, 3 at a time. And then from there, I moved up from the $300,000 to $500,000 acquisitions to higher end properties and now do multi-million-dollar acquisitions.
Nice. Now, you told me about a house you're doing in Beverly Hills right now. What was that purchase and rehab? What was entailed in that and how long did it take you to do that?
Well, I purchased that in November of last year. And I spent about 6 to 8 weeks in the planning and development stages, dealing with architect, design, structural engineers, etc. And so when we finally started lifting the hammer, I finished in July, so it took about 6.5, 7 months to complete the rehab. The original target was 350 on that rehab, and I went a little bit over that, but I had some problems that happened that were unexpected, which always occurs. But all in all, I did it really fast, which helped. It's on the market now for $3 million. I already have one offer. I'm hoping to get another one soon from a foreign buyer, and hopefully, with the activity I've had, I'll have even more offers after that.
Nice. Now, if you don't mind me asking, what did you pay for that property?
I paid 1.8 something. I forget the exact number.
That seems like a huge spread to a lot of people. But when you're looking at the actual percentages on a percentage basis,
it does look like a big spread. And I just had a conversation with somebody the other day about that. And I think I'm getting a lot of these like wholesale deals in my inbox all the time. And like, oh yeah, I got this really great deal. It's got this huge spread. You see like a $400,000, $500,000 spread, and they think that's big. But what they don't realize is the percentage of everything and your cash on cash return, because you've got huge holding costs between your financing, your taxes, your insurance, your utilities, your maintenance. It eats away at that profit. That 500 turns to 200 or 100 really quick. So a $200,000 spread on a $2 or $3 million property, that's not a big margin. You're talking about 10% or less, and heck, that's a small return.
Right. And I mean, if the market turns it off, the market drops 5%. I mean, you just lost almost all your profit. If it changes even worse, you're negative. Or like you said, I mean, in those types of rehabs, any rehab really, you're going to run into things you don't know about once you start getting into the walls and tearing things out. And unexpected expenses can just kill your profits so easily. So yeah, I like the fact you point out it needs to be, percentage based, not just, oh, I'm going to make 300,000 on this house, because
exactly. Yeah, the spread is one thing, but it's that percentage. You really have to have that spread. And if you don't have that 25 or 30% spread in a deal, especially on a big property like that, your holding costs will just eat you up.
Exactly. Nice. So you have, is it 3 flips going right now? Is that correct?
Yeah, I have 3 on the books right now. I'm about to sell one and acquire another one, so I'll remain with 3. And then I'm going to be as soon as that one's gone, I'll be in the market to purchase a number of them. I'm looking for the stuff under $1 million right now. Really needs. The problem with doing the multi-million-dollar properties for me is that I got away from the small stuff, and in doing so, it takes a year or a year and a half before you see that paycheck on a big flip. And with the small stuff, I can flip those in 3 or 4 months, and I get a paycheck. So even if it's only 20 or 30 or 40 grand, that adds to the cash flow. And going a year without any cash flow is tough. So it's one of the mistakes I made in getting bigger and going with these big properties. I shouldn't have got away from the small stuff, even though the spreads were tighter. With my abilities, my experience, my team, and my systems, I could have just kept those right on the side, because I can literally do those with my eyes closed.
And you're in Southern California, which is one of the hottest markets in the country. Almost everyone I talk to in the area says you can't flip here. There's too much competition. If you're able to flip and buy these properties, is it just a matter of putting in a ton of offers? Is it a matter of looking for the right properties under the right conditions? How are you finding these flips?
It's all of the above. I'm finding them on the MLS, but I have systems in place to do so. I have people out there looking. I have agents who go out and shop the MLS and look, or who could possibly bring me a pocket listing before it hits the MLS. Even though it's going to be on the MLS, at least I can find out about it ahead of time. Perhaps arrange a deal with the listing broker before they even list it. That's not something that happens a lot, but it does happen. I'm basically making a lot of offers, but I'm making the right offers on the right properties. A lot of people can say, well, you got lucky on that one, or you got lucky on this one. And one thing that I believe is that you create your own luck. By putting yourself out there, by being in the right place at the right time, by hustling, you're creating your luck. If I was just sitting back waiting for things to happen to me, that luck's not going to come to me. So call it lucky, call it what you want. I call it hard dedication, being out there.
Right. Well, I think if you do one flip and make 90,000 and never do it again, maybe you could call that luck. But when you keep doing it over and over and over again, then you start to see there's a reason besides luck that you're successful. And yeah, I agree with because I buy a lot of my properties on MLS, and I see some investors in my area who will make an offer at 50% of list price on every single REO that comes up. They don't even look at them. They just make offers hoping, 1 out of 1,000 offers gets accepted. And really, it almost gives them a bad reputation. Like other agents don't even want to see their offers anymore because they get so sick of it. But when I do make a lot of offers, but like you said, it's, if I make a lowball offer, maybe it's on one that's been on the market a while, or it just needs so much work. Obviously, it's overpriced a little bit. Or, if they're new listings, you get in there right away, make an offer right away, be very aggressive on them. But yeah, I assume you do a lot of the same things.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. I think that if these people that are just making blind offers, like, just taking whatever the list price is, taking a percentage off of that, whether it's 50 or 60, whatever percent, and just blinding offers out like that, you are going to create a bad name for yourself. You're pretty much wasting your time because most of these brokers aren't going to even look at the offer because it's going to be so low anyways. What I do is I make a lot of offers, and I do make them sight unseen, but I wouldn't necessarily say they're blind offers, because I'm actually analyzing each deal. I'm looking at the numbers, and then I'm going to see, okay, my best offer price is X. And if X is within a percentage of the list price, let's say 85%, so my offer is only 15% lower than what they're asking, I'm somewhat in the ballpark for at least that agent to look at it, perhaps give me a counter, or if I'm lucky enough, get it accepted. But if they're asking $500,000 and I'm going to offer $300,000, I'm not even writing it. It's not even worth the time. So when I make these offers sight unseen, I'm not physically going there, but I'm certainly looking at every MLS picture that they have. I'm going through the details of what the agent spec'd out on the MLS listing, what they described, needs work, fixer, or needs a new kitchen, or whatever they're saying. And then I go through the pictures, and then I can ascertain how much approximately that rehab is going to be, and I make my offer accordingly based on it.
Nice. Yeah. And when I say lowball too, that's a good point. I'm not talking about 50% of list or even 60%. My idea of lowball is, like you said, 15%, maybe 20%, depending on the property. And even on the properties I buy, they might be 100,000, 150,000, where 15 or 20% is not $100,000 difference for the properties you're
right.
doing, like 20 or 30,000
exactly.
difference. So yeah, so your flipping business is awesome. You're obviously doing a great job with that. Back in Texas, you said you had a huge, maybe not huge portfolio, but a portfolio of rental properties. What did that portfolio look like? And then you ended up selling it to get into flipping. So how were your rental properties in Texas, and how'd you end up selling them?
I listed them on the MLS, and it was not a huge portfolio by any means. It was 9 or 10 doors, so it was a very small portfolio. They were all single-family homes, and they were scattered throughout San Antonio and the Dallas-Fort Worth area as well. I basically listed them on the MLS and sold them. A couple of them, we had to do some light rehabs on them to get them MLS list ready after the tenants moved out. I'd liquidate them that way. And that was not a fun process either, because I bought a lot of them wrong. I overpaid for them, and I wasn't cash flowing like I thought, because that's what you do when you're a rookie. You make mistakes and you learn from them. But the good thing is that makes you a stronger, wiser, more savvy investor, as long as you realize the mistakes and don't repeat them. So I liquidate them via MLS through an agent, and I sold them all and cashed all of them out. One of them I carried an owner carried note, and I still have that note, and it cash flows for me. So that one worked out actually very, very well.
One thing, Texas has a lot of, it looks like good numbers from the outside when you first look at rental properties. But one thing I noticed is their taxes can be super high in some of the areas. Did you find that with some of your properties, or why didn't they cash flow as well as you thought they would?
No question, taxes are absolutely from the highest in the country. And one of the reasons is they get a lot of their state income tax or state taxes from property taxes, because they don't have state income tax. So if you're a Texas resident, you're ahead of the game, because you're not paying the California 10% income tax, but you're paying that high property tax. I had properties that were as high as, I think, 3.1 and change % of the value of the property. And that is very high. Is that the reason they didn't cash flow for me, though? No, I knew they were high. I knew the taxes were high. I knew what the rates were. I knew what it was going to be. I knew what my insurance was going to be. The reason it didn't cash flow is because I overpaid. I underestimated vacancies and how much I would have. I underestimated repair costs. And that's just a rookie mistake.
I mean, I did it myself when I first started. You just you assume you'll have less vacancies than you think you'll have. and you assume there'll be less repairs because you buy good properties. But it doesn't matter how new your property is, how awesome your tenants are, you're going to have vacancies, you're going to have repairs at some point. So yeah, it's great advice to always make sure you've got, percentages for what you feel vacancies will be, repairs will be, even if you have properties in good shape.
Yeah, exactly. The other problem I had was with property management. The property management started out great and then just declined and declined, and it was eating away at my profits. And trying to manage from California across to Texas was difficult. So for a newbie, a lot of people are looking for out-of-state investments or turnkey investments. And while those can be good, I do warn, make sure you have a good team. Make sure you have somebody with boots on the ground that are there that you can trust. Because without that, property management companies can eat you alive. I had tenants running over the sprinkler heads with their cars, not intentionally, but it happens. And they're sending me the bill for it. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a tenant fault. Why are you charging me for it? Go after the tenant for that kind of stuff. But that's just the laziness of a property management company not wanting to deal with it. It's easy to charge the rich guy. And who's the rich guy? The land property owner, right? What people don't realize is that's a complete falsehood half the time. Us landlords are just barely trying to scrape by, trying to cash flow $100 or $200 a month a door. And it's not a lot of money and one big expense. And boom, there goes half your year's cash flow. So the property management is absolutely key. I highly recommend you have boots on the ground via a partner or somebody that you can trust has some type of financial investment in the property, where if repairs escalate, that hinders their profits. So in other words, they're on the same team as you.
Right. No, that's great advice. I know there's property management companies around here. I've been in the area my whole life, and you drive around certain areas and you know what their properties are because the lawn's dead. The roof, the roof is 30 years old and leaking, and it's the same property management company every single time. They don't do anything until the house is about to fall down, and then they go through and do a complete full rehab. And it's a mess. And they don't rent for as much. They don't get rented. And if you live in California, you don't know that stuff. But if you've got someone here, all you have to do is look at the property and see it's not being taken care of.
Exactly. So if I was investing out of state and I was investing near state, I'd want to hook up with somebody like you who's got their boots on the ground. And maybe I come in with the money and you come in with the knowledge of the area and the property management. You can keep an eye because you're there all the time and I'm not. So that would be a good joint venture.
Yeah, exactly. You mentioned you did seller financing, owner carry on one of those rentals. I know you're investing a lot in notes now. What got you started investing in notes?
I was looking to build more passive income. And when you flip, that's a job, let's face it. It's not passive whatsoever by any stretch of the imagination. And even landlording is what I call semi-passive. It's not fully passive because you're managing property managers, you're managing tenants. There's a lot of active activity going on with landlording. With notes, the only active activity really is the initial due diligence on the house and on your borrower. After that, with the servicer who collects the payments, deposits direct in my bank account, there's nothing for me to do unless, perhaps they stop paying. And even there, the servicer handles that. They start, the notice of default process and go forward from there or work out with the borrower. So it's literally 99% passive, and that's what I was looking to build. And still am.
Nice. Now, how many notes do you own now?
I currently have, I think, 5.
You've got 5 notes. How did you buy those notes? Did you find an online company that's selling them, or was it kind of a connection through other investors you know?
Both. One of them, several of them were through a broker that I know, and the other ones were through word of mouth through other investors. An investor friend of mine here locally, his father was selling a couple notes out of his IRA, and I bought those too. And so that's how I've acquired my notes. I'm definitely looking at other processes where I can market myself and really get into that. I really do want to build up my passive income.
Nice. And with that passive income, you had rentals before. Are you looking to buy any more rentals? Is that in your future plan?
It is, but not the single families, scattered all over the place. What I'm really looking for are apartments. And I've been searching for all of 2014. I was searching a little bit in 2013 and I think I was still going in early 2015, and I literally gave up. The prices are so tight right now on apartments. Everyone wants apartments. And so I've just really been concentrating on getting through my flips and building some more systems here. And I think I'll probably wait for the next market turn, and then I'll go after that. Of course, if a deal falls across my desk that I can't turn down, I'm certainly all over it.
Nice. Yeah, I was going to ask you about the market too. Colorado, where I'm at, we actually had one of the highest appreciating markets in the last year. No inventory, very few houses. Prices are going crazy. You're kind of in the same situation in California. What do you think about the market? I know no one can predict what's going to happen, but prices out there are so much higher than they are here even. I mean, can the average person afford a house out there? Do you think the market can keep going up, or is it going to correct soon?
I think that the only reason that we have affordability currently, and that the affordability index isn't just off the charts unaffordable, is because the low interest rates. That is the only reason keeping this market alive. If we were to get back to the normal, like 7% interest rates, which is probably somewhat pretty standard back in the day, every one of these houses would be way overpriced. No one could afford them. And so if we got to a 7% interest rate, obviously that doesn't happen overnight or even a year. Pretty tough for interest rates to go from 4 to 7. That's almost double. But it could take several years to get there. I think they have nowhere to go but up. We've already seen signs of slight increases. And as they get back up closer to 6 or 7, all these houses are going to be unaffordable. There's no way. So the only thing that can offset that is for income to go up. And I'm not seeing that at all.
Right. And it'd have to, like you said, not just go up a little bit, but huge increases in income for people to be able to afford those houses.
Exactly. Not a little bit, a lot of it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about a little bit more about your business now. BarnardEnterprises.com. That's your main business, correct?
That is correct. That is my S Corp here in California, and I do all of my flipping out of that, and my consulting services and all of my rehab projects all ran through Barnard Enterprises.
You're very active on Bigger Pockets. Been a big part of that, and I've seen before you're looking for partners once in a while on some of your flips or money partners. Do you still look for partners? Or are you still looking for people to invest with you?
Absolutely. I'm always looking for private money lenders. I don't JV partner with people too often. And when I do, it's typically people that I know, people that are here local that I trust and I've worked with before. So, the stranger from Minnesota comes and says, hey, I want to JV on this deal with you, Will. It's probably not going to happen until I've already had a relationship with you. So that's going to take time.
Totally understandable. And then you mentioned consulting. What kind of consulting work are you doing right now?
Well, I have other rehabbers and flippers who need advice. I've had somebody who did a loan on a flip that went bad, and I was consulting him as well, trying to find a way to get his money back. So basically, I can go in if you're a flipper. Let's say you got a day job but you still want to flip. You're trying to manage a project, and you just don't either have the experience and or the time. I can jump in there and I can offer consulting services, which would include design, layout. Here's what you should put in this house. Here's what your budget should be, etc. I can also do project management services where I'm there and I can bring in my team. I can bring in my team of contractors for you and all my subs. So a whole variety and range of services I can offer for here in Southern California.
Very nice. And like I said, we'll send a link on the page here so people can find you. I think that's about all I had to go over today. I really appreciate you taking the time. Do you have any advice, a few tips for someone who wants to get into flipping, don't really know where to start? What's kind of the first things they should do?
First step, if you're starting and you really want to get into flipping, for example, or wholesaling, which is the popular topic, I highly recommend that you get educated. That's number one. And where are you going to get that education? So there's a ton of books out there you can read. You can go to the library and read them for free. You can buy them. I highly recommend you, if you're not already a member of BiggerPockets.com, get on there, create your free profile, stay active on the site and engage the community. If you're not active in the forums and asking questions and reading questions and answers, then you're not taking advantage of a valuable resource that's right there in front of your face for free. So I highly recommend that. I highly recommend attending real estate club events in your local area. Stay away from the gurus. Don't get caught up in that where they're trying to charge you tens of thousands of dollars to do their BS education stuff that you can likely get for free or for a lot less. So that's number one. You've got to know your market too. If you don't know your market and your numbers, you're not going to be successful. So if you skip that part, it's like going out there blind and trying to fish without a fishing pole, really. So you've got to know your market and you got to know your numbers. So how do you do that? You got to put your boots on the ground, get out there, drive around in the neighborhoods, go to open houses, look what's out there, look what things are selling for. When you know what a property that's already fixed up and it's move-in ready, and you know what that property is selling for because it's on the market, and you can see the closed sales as well, kind of get a feel for what your exit values are on specific properties. Then you go in on something that's a listing that maybe needs some work. Go into these properties, walk around, take your notes, and say, okay, this house needs a new kitchen, new bath, and then go back home and practice pricing all that stuff out. If you don't know how to do that, then you are hindering yourself in your potential success. So that's what I would highly recommend. Last but not least, get out there and do it. Don't let fear stop you. There's always going to be fear. I was fearful when I first started. Well, what if I make this mistake? What if I lose money? What if this is not a good deal? What if? If you let all those what if stop you, well, then you've already lost. So get out there and go ahead and do it. I just read and exchanged on BiggerPockets a thread about this girl who just completed her first flip. She made a small amount of money on it, and it was a really nice story. She admitted of all the mistakes she made, and yet she still cleared a profit. Good for her. But the most valuable advice that I added in that thread was the fact that she got out there and did it, and she just got a most valuable education and got paid for it. So even if you were to break even, just think of it as your education costs. Even if you lost $5,000, I'd rather you flip a house, lose $5,000 or $10,000 on it, because that's just paying your education. You're going to be so much more educated than a person that's going to the guru camp.
Awesome. I don't think I can add much more to that. I agree with all those points. And yeah, paying $30,000 to learn how to flip a house from someone who probably never has flipped, or at least not flipped in your area, or you can, make some money or maybe lose a little bit of money doing it yourself and learning the whole process. It's pretty much a no-brainer. Really appreciate your time. Loved having you on the show. I'll send links out to your pages so people can get a hold of you if they want to talk to you about maybe investing, private money, or if they want some consulting work. Loved having you on the show, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me on. Take care.
All right. Thank you, Will.